Today we're taking a look-see-back-see on 12 of my favorite winter DIYs, so let's get started with project number 1. So for this project, I used a couple of these signs I picked up at Dollar Tree last summer. Now the signs I had actually already painted white because I was going to do a project with them for Christmas, but I didn't get to it. So it's okay that it has a white base because now I'm going to go ahead and just paint around the perimeter in black. That way when I go to sand it, that white's going to show through and it's going to look kind of cool. And what I did is I had my husband one of the signs cut off about a 3-inch portion here because I like to stack my signs, and you know, if I have a little bit different, couple of different sizes, I can stack them fun. I can put them in a straight line, stack them on top of each other, however I want to do it. It just gives me a little more flexibility with arranging them for, you know, home decor. And it takes about 2 coats to kind of paint over the white here, again using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Caviar as with the other couple of projects. And then I'm going to go ahead, I cut everything off camera. I cut them about a 1/4 inch short and perimeter all the way around. For front and back, I leave the sides plain. I just sand those. And we're going ahead and getting our Beacon Fabri-Tac glue onto the back pieces here, onto the back sides of the pieces, I should say. And again, you don't have to use paper. You can totally just paint around the edges and distress. And especially if you paint it white first and then black, if you're leaving it just all painted, looks really, really cool. Here's what it looks like, and you can see I distressed a little more on the sides. I did it off camera, so you don't see that here, but you can see how cool it looks. I sewed around the edges, distressed with my scissors. And before we get the front on, we're going to go ahead and get our quote on again. And on this one, I'm using the fonts Georgia and Hello. Well, I just love how cute. It turned out so simple and easy using a couple of Dollar Tree signs. So of course our quote says, "Do you want to build a snowman?" Super, super cute. So just getting our pieces off here, and then we'll go ahead and start gluing those on. I've done this before, taking one of the signs, kind of cutting a piece off, so that, you know, 2 signs are now kind of 3 pieces, and I just love how that works. And you could glue them in place how you want them and kind of glue them slanted, you know, like if you want to glue one sign on top of the other and glue this little piece on there so it's all one unit, or leave it separate for, you know, moving around, however you want to do it. Snowflakes here, I, you know, of course painted Pouncy brush up and down, and I'm just going to glue it onto this little block here. And then I've got, and I'm setting it up to make sure that I don't, and I painted the back because you're going to see that, and I set up to make sure that this snowflake isn't too far down so it can set up right. And then I've got just a little piece of paper here that I put the word Frosty on, you know, again with my Cricut Explorer 3 machine, Georgia font, and I'm just gluing this onto a piece of cardboard that I painted in black, distressed around the edges a little bit, just like that. And then I will glue this to the center of the snowflake. With that said, that makes this project complete. Let's move on into project number 2. Mini rolling pins. You can pick these up at Hobby Lobby. They come in a package of 3. This one I went to go tape off and paint, and I realized, hey, that's not even glued on, so I quickly pulled that out. It'll be nice and easy. Bringing in the Debbie's Design Diary gravel road paint here. I'm going to paint the center in this color. I do a couple of coats here. And a lot of times I'll add ribbon and stuff on these cute little mini rolling pins, but this time I didn't. I left it nice and easy and plain. Painting the handle part of it, of course, in the white swan paint. And then I will distress everything, a little bit of sanding as you see here. And then we're going to go ahead, and this is what I've got, Dear Jack Frost. And this one is Smack Over and Crash Mounty for the fonts. Again, you can write it yourself, or stickers or rub-on letters or anything like that that you want to put on. And I'll have the links in the or the names of the fonts in the description box for you. They're all free from dafont.com. And then once I get that on there, I will go ahead, it looks so cute. I go ahead and put the handles through and glue it so it doesn't come apart. That makes this project complete. Here's project number 3. So for this project, again, I'm going to use Dollar Tree, these book stacks. I'm so glad they finally came out with these. I purchased like 5 or 6 of them because, again, they're going to be so cute throughout different holidays. And I went ahead, you don't have to, because you could just cover it completely. I went ahead and took as much of the paper off as I could and sanded along the edges so I could kind of, paint around the edges and stuff like that. This piece kind of came off when I was doing that and just glued it back on. These are the colors I'm going to be using, and of course Debbie's Design Diary DIY chalk paint in the color White Swan, and I'm just going to go around the edges of everything. But if you didn't want to do that and paint everything and remove the papers, excuse me, let me say that in the right direction. If you didn't want to remove the papers and then paint everything, you could just leave those papers on and paint directly over it, or just cover over it in new paper. You don't have to take it to the extreme I did, but it's just how my brain operates, so that's the way I did it. And I've got all my pieces here. I am cutting them probably about a 1/16 of an inch shorter than the original pieces, and I'm just going top and bottom around the sides. Now the sides and the front, I'm just cutting each individual strip here. I'm showing you how I did that. I cut it the width I needed, and then I'm measuring it to see how far I need to cut the length. And I'll continue to do that because I still want it to look like a book stack. My paper, 12-inch length, 12 by 12 sheets of paper, not quite wide enough to just wrap from the side around the front and to the other side, so I had to do those in individual sections. I am going ahead and covering the back side because this book stack, when you buy these, the back sides aren't covered, so I'm covering that as well. So here they are all sewn, of course cut out. I've got the other pieces all distressed. Here I am distressing it. I love when I go to distress like cardstock like this that has like an inner white core, so that when you distress it with the edges, kind of a white edge shows out. Here's what it looks like distressed on the bottom, not distressed on the top. Just want to show you that again. And some cardstock and papers you get, of course, the inner core is the same color as the outer part of the cardstock, but when they have this white inner core and then the colors put on the outside of that, when they process it, it looks really cool. So for that's the bottom. My darker color is going to be on the bottom, so I cut the bottom of the box to be the same color as the bottom book, so to speak. And then the middle book, that color is going to be, I cut the back of the box to be the same color. So here we are with the polka dot, so hopefully this makes sense watching it. So the top is the lighter color, so the first book is going to be the same color. The middle color is polka dot, so the back of the box I went ahead and made polka dot, and then the bottom color is the darker gray, and I made the bottom of the box that color. So hopefully it's understandable. If it's not, do it in whatever color you like. I'm going to set the front strips aside for now, and we're going to work on the top of the box. So I'm going to use again one of these chunky snowflakes. I'm going to use the chunky part because remember it does stand up, and in some of these snowflake tuck-ins I'll use 2 of those and the back piece of the chunky snowflake. And then Dollar Tree has these styrofoam balls. You can get a bag of different sizes, so I'll use a couple of those, kind of 2 medium and 2 small out of that bag. I'm going to do the snowflake and the white swan, and I'm going to use some of this snow flock. I got it at Amazon. I've showed this before. I'm going to show you again. It's for like flocking trees and stuff. So you're going to need a spray bottle. Mine looks really beautiful. And you're going to, in case of the styrofoam balls, you're going to wet the styrofoam ball first. And then I like to wet that away from the powder because, you know, you don't want to spray your water over the bag of your flocking powder, because then what's that going to do? It's going to, you know, bind it all together. So spray your area away from the flocking powder, and then I just pour the flocking powder on. You can see the difference, flocked on the left and not on the right, and you can certainly not even flock it. You could just paint it, or these styrofoam balls have a lot of texture to them, so maybe just a spray glitter would work perfectly if you didn't want to do this whole flocking technique. I'm just doing it in my hands. And then once you get however many layers on you want, because you could do 2 or 3 coats of this flocking powder, I just do 1. You spray them again with water to seal it, and you just let them dry. So I'm just setting these over here in the corner to dry, and then we'll move on to our snowflakes. And what I'm doing first, just with the white swan paint, a nice thin layer here with the foam brush, just to kind of get a base coat. And doing the same on all 3 pieces, of course. Then what we're going to do is texture it a little bit to kind of look textured like the snowballs. The base coat was just a little bit too flat a paint. So the way I do this, I take a pouncy brush, I dip it in the paint, and I pounce it up and down like this. And I will do 2 coats of this. You can see that texture. And then I will heat set it with my heat tool in between. I thought that looked better than just flat paint against the texture of those snowballs. So those are dry, setting them aside, and I'm now going to bring in our quotes using the black vinyl because I wanted to bring a little bit of black into this. Again, you can use metallic markers, the paint pens, rub-on letters, sticker letters, anything that you want. You could print it out on paper from your printer and then just cut the paper out. And glue that on, Mod Podge that on, however you want to do it. And the fonts I'm using on these ones it's called Hello Regular and then Board Contest. I kind of combine 2 fonts so that you get a little bit of a print and a little bit of a script. And again, I'll have these in the description box down below. And I wanted cute quotes that kind of went in with winter, of course. So hello snow, let's stay cozy. And then, of course, and what I'm doing is I'm putting these on is I'm making sure I'm lining up the quotes at the right edge. So it looks a little more uniform. And then, of course, the last one says, you melt my heart, of course, because snow melts. I thought those were cute little book titles, of course. All right, and then we'll go ahead and glue those on. And what I did is the top, you can see I tried to pick titles where the top is shorter. The middle is just a little bit longer, and then the bottom one is a little bit longer still. And that's just my own, you know, creativity coming about. Here's what it looks like all together. And then I've got some of this black and white check ribbon from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to wrap it around the entire book at the left edge here. Use a little bit of Fabri-Tac glue just to kind of tack it on and around so it's a little bit easier to kind of tie in a bow. And then, of course, on top, we'll go ahead and tie it into a cute little bow. Trying to get the right direction here to tie this. I love this black and white check. Really pliable to work with. Sometimes Dollar Tree ribbons are cute, but they're really stiff and don't tie into a bow very well. And then, of course, I'll cut off the excess. I like to leave my little tails longer. That's just how I am when I do bows and stuff. I like them to be a little bit longer. And then we'll go ahead on top, once we get this bow adjusted how I want, we're going to go ahead and glue down our snowflake and snowballs. I want to make that little scenery on top. These chunky snowflakes from craftingwithkimber.com are perfect for that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down the snowballs. And I've got my 2 snowballs down, and in one of my snowflakes, I'm going to kind of lean and stand up against the one snowball. And then I'll get the other 2 snowballs down here and kind of stack them up. Just seeing how I want them to be and seeing how, you know, where I need to put the glue so this one comes in contact with both snowballs. And the Fabri-Tac glue holds it down perfectly wonderful, even with the snow flock on it. And then of course I'm going to get my other snowflake laying down here. So it looks like the snowflakes and snowballs are just kind of splattering across the top. And once I do that, this project is complete. Here we go with project number 4. For this project, this is a kit from my friend Kim, who's craftingwithkimber.com. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you. The wood kit comes with all these pieces. You have a choice between the wood kit only and the kit with all the accessories. And I love this. It's done on 1/2-inch wood, so it's made to stand up. But I love how wonky it is. You can see like the head is not straight, the heart's wonky. I love it. And this runs about 11¼ inches tall without the hat. And even like the hat, look, I mean, the pieces are just whimsical and cute. And the hat, she's made the pieces on top so it looks all 3D-ish. I love how that is. And then once you add the hat, it adds about another 1.5 inches in height, so you're looking over 13 inches. It's got this thin little piece to kind of go on top and this thinner piece to go underneath right down here like that. You put it in, it leaves you some space, and then you put your little outline piece on top, and then you get the heart that's actually cut out of that space, so that, you know, just for some fun in front of the snowman. And then of course we have our little shoes. I love this. I love this. It's our hand-drawn pattern. Here's our little mittens. Cute. We've got a little carrot nose. Love it, love it, love it. We've got little buttons. Even the buttons are a little bit wonky. They're not completely straight circle. You know, I just think that's what makes it rustic and farmhouse and cute. You get a little heart here. And then you get this extra little piece. It's kind of stability for the backside. Even though with the boots it will stand up, you get that stability. And then you also get all these snowflakes with. So for starting out, these pieces here, plus the other thicker heart, I'm going to cut out of this dot paper, just so I have a little bit of paper in there. And then all these pieces here, we're going to kind of go over the paints we're going to use. This is going to be done in Debbie's Design Diary, DIY, Little Black Dress, chalk paint. Okay, this nose is going to be done in the Dixie Belle terracotta paint. These pieces plus the bigger heart will be done in the Dixie Belle Barn red paint after I trace everything around. And these pieces, drop cloth, Dixie Belle drop cloth. We're going to use some wood glue, not for the reason you think. And then Debbie's Design Diary DIY White Swan chalk paint. And the snowflakes will be in the White Swan chalk paint as well. So we're going to start out, and I'll come back to all those other wood glue and stuff in a little bit. We're going to start out by painting our one pieces black. I decided when I painted this, I was just going to paint it flat like I'm doing here. And I thought I wanted a little bit of texture so it looks a little bit more weathered. So I start off by painting everything black. And then I take some of the black chalk paint and add some baking soda to it. And I'll mix it up here a little bit, and you can make this as thick or so as you want, but beware, the thicker you make it, the faster it kind of sets up. I've noticed you got to kind of work a little bit quick. So I kind of made it, you know, a medium to high thickness. And once I do that, I'm taking this little pouncy brush, and then I'm going to pounce it on just in the areas that I want it. It's not going to be all over. Again, wanting it to look weathered. And then I will take my heat tool to it and kind of set it up. And then I'll come back and I'll do that again. And I do that a couple of times. And then this is what it ends up looking like. Almost just that rustic look. So I'm going to do that to all of these pieces that I'm painting black here. So I've got everything painted, you know, the flat paint first, the flat stroke first. And then coming in with that pouncy brush and just pouncing it on kind of in the areas like I said I want. Giving that little bit of definition. You could, of course, skip this part. I just kind of want that weathered rustic look to it. Then I'm going to come in and kind of trace out my pieces that I need on the dot paper, and you don't even have to use paper. I just wanted that extra little bit of texture, of course, just doing a few pieces, and then I'll paint all these pieces in that barn red. And then here's my snowflakes already done, and you can see the texture on them. I painted them with the white and then took the pouncy brush to them. I didn't add baking soda in it. I just pouncy brush and heat set in between. Okay, now we're painting the back of the snowman. I'm painting that in the White Swan chalk paint, and then I will just go ahead and paint that one little straight piece of wood too that's going to kind of be our stability piece. That is by itself in the White Swan chalk paint. Now we're on the front. I'm starting out with the Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color drop cloth, and I'm painting it all the way around, just on the front. We're not worrying about the back or anything like that. We're just going to do a little technique here. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it before, but you know, we have new viewers sometimes, and it's fun to do something new. I want to crackle this, and I went to get my crackle stuff out. You can buy crackle. It was all dried up and didn't work. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go to the glue method of crackle. So you want that darker coat first, like you do a normal crackle, and then I'm coming in with the wood glue. Now you can use Elmer's glue as well, but for me personally, I find that the wood glue crackles better. And the thinner you get it in areas, the smaller the crackle, the thicker you get it, the larger the crackle. And now I know wood glue kind of has a yellow tinge, and you're going to kind of see that when you use a wood glue. You're going to kind of see that yellow tint to it versus Elmer's glue where you get more of the white tint to it. But I'm okay with that on this because it just adds more color. So once you get it painted on, I'm just taking my heat tool on a low setting. You can see how kind of quickly it dries, literally in just a minute or so, and get that all nice and ready to go. And then I'm going to come over that with the white swan chalk paint and then paint the entire thing. And it's going to look kind of lumpy and bumpy as you paint over it because of the wood glue. But for some reason, once you go to like heat set it and stuff, it just kind of flattens out. I don't know what it is. It just works. So as you can see, it's already starting to crackle, and I haven't even used my heat tool yet. Here comes the heat tool, and look at the magic. I love it. Look at those large cracks. It's good for my crafting soul. I love how it turns out. Easy. See, look at that. So yeah, I know you see that little bit of yellow, but that's okay. We'll cover it up. Not all of it. We're still going to be able to see it some. So I'm bringing in that snowflake again. Now, I am sorry because I swore I hit the record button. This is what it looks like. I'm not completely done with it. You can still see the cracks through it. I'm going to flip it over and show you on the back what I did. So you're going to, again, like we did the first project, start with water. And then I'm using the sifter part of this, and I'm just going to sift it on. Okay? So I get a nice light layer. And then in between coats of sifting, I'm spraying it again. Then I'm going to sift a little bit more. All right. And then I'm going to come in for the water again, spraying it on. Remember, that's what sets it kind of in between. And this is what it looks like. As you saw on the front, this is where we're at. Now I'm coming in and I'm spraying the water again on the front. And now I'm going to kind of dump it on instead of sifting it, so I get great big chunks of the snowflake on there. And then once I get where I want it, of course, then I come back in to completely set it with the water, and then I just let it dry. So now I'm just coming in with everything that I painted. I'll just show a little bit here. You guys know how to sand. I'm bringing in kind of that rustic look, going around the edges and sanding with the 80 grit sandpaper here around all my pieces just to further that rustic look. Red's done. We're coming into some black. It really just enhances it and just kind of gives it definition when you kind of sand around the edges. And then, of course, I'm coming in with what? My 3 little pieces that I cut out for hearts and stuff like that, and for the hat. And I'm just coming in with my sewing machine and sewing around the edges just to bring in that nice, soft, subtle texture that I love to do here. And then the open end of my scissor blades, and I'm coming around all my little pieces here and just doing a little bit of heavier scraping along the sides just to give it a little bit more texture. And of course, even on the back, I just like my back finished off. But again, I'll show you why when we get to it, why I chose to cover the back side with this. It's going to kind of cover up some mess we're going to make back there. Now I'm coming in. I'm going to do a little shading. I'm sorry this is a little bit blurry. My camera didn't focus. I've got a little paint on one tip of a flat brush here, and then I'm adding water, and I dip my brush in water, and I just kind of come along the edges. It's kind of half paint and the other half in water, and I just shade along it. Just see, dip a corner in and then dip your brush into the water and shade it. And it might look a little heavy, but that's because it's wet. When it dries, it's going to look a little more translucent. And if it does tend to look a little bit heavier to you, you can just dip your paintbrush back in the water and then go back over again. Like it looks a little heavier there to me. You know, so I'll come back, wipe my brush off, go in the water and come back in and just kind of fan it out a little bit. It just gives you that little bit of shading to kind of make your pieces pop. And now what I'm doing, even though I have some wood snowflakes, I opted not to put snowflakes on top of the mittens because I thought it just looked a little too heavy. So I'm coming in with a small paintbrush and I'm just going to paint on some snowflakes here and just make them fun and whimsical. You know, I'm not making it all the same length or anything like that. And then I'm coming in with this ball burnisher. You can pick these up at Dollar Tree. It has like one large end, one small end, although now I think there's some with just only one ball on one end. And I dip it into paint with the larger ball, and then I just kind of make a dot at the end of our snowflakes. It just kind of gives it a little bit of country charm there. Just like that, really easy and perfect. And then we'll go in and we'll start gluing our few pieces of paper on our hearts. Just like that, and then gluing our little piece of paper on our little part of our hat here. And then once I've got that glued on, I'm taking this skinnier heart here and I'm adding some glue around the edges. Now I can't quite get in that dip in the center of the heart, so I'll come onto this right here, add a little bit of glue just along the edge, just along the edge. Remember, turn our snowman over and pop that heart right into place, just like that. And now we've got kind of that recess area, and then we'll go ahead and place the outline heart over the top. Perfect. All right, now I'm coming in with the watered down white swan chalk paint, dabbing off the excess and then tapping my fan brush. I like to use a fan brush here. I have more control over it. Some people use a toothbrush. Some people use bigger brushes. I just like a fan brush personally. So I'm doing the darker pieces with the white polka dots. And a little bit up here because I want to get that heart that's on the snowman. Then I'm going to come in with that little black dress chalk paint watered down, and I'm going to splatter that on the snowman area because you'll be able to see that better, of course, than the same white paint that we used to paint the top with of the top of the crackle of the snowman. Now I'm coming in with that ball burnisher, and I'm adding just some fun dots and placement here, just adding in a little bit more character wherever I want it to be. Even though I know we splattered it, I'm adding in some bigger dots for the funness of it. And then coming in with that Saint paintbrush that we did the snowflakes with, and just adding some little lines here, some definition, just some character. You could do little squiggle lines. You can use like the Sharpie markers. I don't have a white Sharpie marker, but the Sharpie markers to do that with gives you a little bit better control. Just adding just some character to it. And now I've got a piece of black wire here. I think this is 18 gauge. 20 gauge will probably work fine. About 8 inches here. And I want to curl some wire. I've got one done here, 2 pieces. Just kind of curling it around a thick handled paintbrush. Straighten out the edges a little bit. And then I've got 2 pieces of kind of like mesh ribbon here. And I've already got one done. I'm going to add this wire on the back of the snowman. So I'm adding some glue, and I'm going to add the wire there. And then add that mesh right over the top and use my little silicone brush to glue that wire down and hold it in place. And then once that's set and stable, I've got a piece of cardstock here that I'm gluing on the back of that to cover all that mess up. And we're going to come in and I'm going to kind of glue my hat together here, all the pieces that go together, and it starts looking really cool, all 3D and all our little splatters and dots and squiggle lines. And once that's glued together, we're going to go ahead and get our feet on. So I'm going to, of course, put my snowman up right how it should be and figure out which position my feet need to be, or my shoes, I guess, and get those glued right into position, taking careful that I don't get any glue on the part that might show from the back side. Just need, the Beacon Fabri-Tac glue works perfectly wonderful here. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue the hat on in the top. You can put the hat whatever position you want. I'm going to slant it just a little bit cattywamper so it goes with the rest of the whimsy. And now I'm using a flat end of a paintbrush. I like to do a flat end versus a round end, and dipping it into some paint and then putting that onto the snowman to make 2 little eyes. And now I've got some Distress Oxide ink and warm lipstick. You could do like a pink paint or something. And I've got a little ink dauber here, just kind of checking where my nose is going to go. And I'm going to just make some, daub on some little round pink cheeks here. Perfectly cute. And then now we're on the back of our snowman. We want to attach our mitten. So I'm adding a little glue here, putting the wire in, a little more glue on top. Same thing I did on the mittens. This might be easier to see, and adding some of that mesh ribbon, and then I'll smush it down. So this is exactly what I did on the mitten, but this is a little up closer to camera so you can see it. Glue, add the wire, little more glue on top, and then add the piece of mesh. The mesh helps the glue kind of squeeze through the holes, and I think it gives it a more firm, steadier hold. And then use that silicone brush to push in position. I've got some glue on the back of my cardstock piece. Now you know why I traced the back of the snowman, so that I could cover all this mess up. Now we're on the front. Everything's set up so I can move my little hands on that black wire and put it into position I want and make it look really, really cute. And then we're going to go ahead and add our little buttons into place here. This is such a cute kit, you guys, and it's such a reasonable price. It's under $20 for just the wood kit by itself, not including shipping, but I don't think the shipping's that expensive as well. So if you want to get one, I would press that link and get on over and get yourself one. So buttons glued into place, glued my nose into place. I'm going to add one of the larger snowflakes to that large heart. We had kind of extra. Set that aside, and I've got just some wintry snow, greenery here I'm going to add into position here. It looks cute without it, but I just kind of wanted to add something else too. And I've got like a 1-inch strip of ribbon here, or fabric, that I've ripped, made into a bow. Glue that into position, and then I'm going to wrinkle and crinkle everything where I want it and glue that into position, because it just gives it a more cuter look than just kind of hanging down in the center of the snowman. Cute, cute, cute. And then I've got kind of a red and brown twine bow you can get at Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue that into position over the fabric bow, and then again glue my little tails into position. So those will be exactly where I want them to be. Love it. And then I've got a couple of little rusty bells here I'm gluing at the top of that winter greenery. And then I've got a smaller snowflake for the hat, gluing that on. And then I've got a little piece of muslin fabric here I've cut and ripped, did a little sewing around it, and I'm using my Distress Oxide ink and Vintage Photo and kind of distressing that up a little bit. Michael's Clickable stamps here, I'll have a link in the description box for you. VersaFine ink, I love it, and just stamping on the word Frosty here. Now I know we always kind of Frosty is with Christmas, but Frosty is a snowman, and it's the shortest word I can find to fit so you could see it on my snowman. I'll glue that into position and glue the little heart to the left here, and then I'm going to add a few more snowflakes spilling out and kind of slanted up against that little recess of our heart there. 3 little snowflakes, perfectly cute. Love how they kind of spill out of that. And I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece on the back. You can see Frosty standing up perfectly fine, but I'll still go ahead and glue this there for stability. Once I do that, I'm going to use a spray glitter off camera. This is called Glitter Dust. It's by a brand called ThermaWeb that I've used for years in scrapbooking. It's a clear spray with a really fine glitter mist. This one's silver. They have different colors. But once I do that, that makes this project complete. Let's move into project number 5. For this project, we're going to make a cute hanging mitten, and I got these pieces. I think they come 5 or 6 to a pack. You can get them from Hobby Lobby. You could use foam board for this, cardboard, anything you want. This wood is so thin, it's like 1/8 of an inch thin, and you could use like a Dollar Tree sign as well. I literally just free-handed the little mitten and the cuff at the top. And I'll show you here just with some heavy-duty scissors, just cut it out. It was nice and easy. DIY White Swan chalk paint for this. I'm going to just paint around the front, just around the about 1 inch in, and in the sides and the back completely covered so it's nice and finished off. Do a little bit on the cuff here. I love how this turned out. I think it looks so cute. So I just trace around each piece here, just like that. And then I go in, this is about 1/4 of an inch in, and I just redraw a new perimeter. Just like that, nice and easy. Doing the same thing on the mitten. Now the mitten I don't quite have to go all the way up because the cuff will cover that part. So, you know, I cut about 1/2 inch from the top is where I started my new pattern here. And then I just cut that new pattern out. That makes it nice and easy. And then I'm just going to kind of curve the edges. And so I'm pinning this mitten pattern to my fabric, and you can see on the mitten I have another new pattern I drew about 1/4 of an inch in. So we're going to cut this fabric out first. I've just cut it 2 pieces. I'm just going to leave that together. And so here's the new perimeter I drew on that, and I've got it pinned to some, you know, felt from Dollar Tree. And I'm just cutting it out on that new perimeter so that our felt will be a little bit shorter, the pattern a little bit shorter than the main fabric. And you can see here what it would look like. Here it is, everything's sewn. You could skip this part. I just like that look. Using Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here. So I'm getting some glue on my cuff here. The cuff is also 2 pieces of felt, and then a little bit of twine here so that I can make a hanger, because I want this to be able to hang. Gluing that down, and then gluing down my little felt fabric here. Cover up our ends of our twine, and then here I am gluing down the 2 pieces of felt on the mitten. You can see how thin it is. That's why I use 2, and plus, you know, 2 layers gives it a little bit more thickness. And when I cut the main mitten fabric here, I cut it in 2 layers again to give it more thickness. And so as I lay it down on that felt, since that felt's a little bit shorter all the way around, I can push those edges up right up against that felt. Just gives it a nice puffy, you know, country home look. You can see here how puffy it is. But you know, don't have to use fabric here. You could cover this with paper. You could just leave it painted if you want the painted look. Either way will look cute. So here I am marking the cuff, you know, where I want to put the glue. We're going to go ahead and glue down our winter greenery here. So I want "Let It Snow" on this little sign here. So I penciled it in, and I'm going to use this metallic marker in white from Dollar Tree. I like the metallic marker better than I think they have a chalk marker and a glass marker. It's just a little bit more bolder when you write it on, and I will usually write it on as I'm doing here, and I'll do like 3 or 4 coats. Let it dry for just a couple seconds and then do it again 2, 3, 4 times to get it nice and bold. So these little snowflake ornaments has a hole in it, and I don't want just one hole in it, so I'm going to use my crocodile here, and I'm going to add holes all the way around on the other little pieces and the other little ends here, just so it looks like that's the way it was designed instead of just, you know, one hole. There, looks a little better. And then I'm going to add these onto the end of the twine here. Now that hole's pretty big, so I want some pretty big beads here so the snowflake doesn't fall through the bead. So here, I didn't show it on the other one, but I have these little beads I got at Hobby Lobby, and I'm just painting them. Debbie's Design Diary DIY chalk paint. This is Gravel Road. This stuff actually, when you paint it, paints on darker, and then as I'm using my heat tool here, you see it gets lighter. But I love the color. It's a nice light gray. I'm putting those on a skewer to paint them because it makes it easier. And then I will add that and a white bead right underneath those cute snowflakes. Figure out the length I want here though on my snowflakes and bead, and then of course tie a knot, or a half knot I guess really. Half knot. And then cut off the excess. Just let a little bit hanging there. I really like how this one turned out. I'm going to add a little glue inside that clip there. I'm going to add my pit berries and my twine bow right in that area. Just to give it a little something something. And then I'll get some glue on here and get that ready. Get it glued on, and then we'll add those pom-poms to give us a little bit of a snowball look. And once I get these on here, then I'll go ahead and add another bell. I think the silver just kind of goes in nicely with the color palette here. And then that makes this project complete. Let's do a Pottery Barn dupe with project number 6. For this first project, we're going to make this snowman. It came from Pottery Barn, and the clearance price is $54.99. We can do better than that. So what we're going to need to get started is I have a 3-page free printable for you. The link will be down in my description box to my blog. For the bottom of the snowman, you'll start with this one. You'll cut it out, and you're going to tape it together at the dash lines. So you have like one long, narrow eyeball. All right, you'll cut 7 of those out of your fabric. And then for the top of our snowman, you'll cut 5 of these. Cut your pattern out, cut 5 for the head. And then for the hat is the remaining 3 pieces here. The brim, you're going to cut 2 pieces. And then the top of the hat, and then the bottom of the hat, you're going to cut 1 of each. All right, again, link will be in my description box to my blog to print this out. It's a PDF format. So for my snowman, I found the Sherpa material on sale, Joanns.com. I think when I got it, it was like $5.99 a yard, maybe $8.99 a yard. I will have links down below for you in the description box to Joann's, but I know you can find this in like Walmart too. I'm going to use white and a little bit of black. And you don't have to use Sherpa if you don't want. You can use like a fleece if you want. But I love the Sherpa material. It's really soft and flexible, has a little stretch to it, and it's perfect for the snowman. All right, so we're working with this snowman body. I cut 7 off camera, 7 of these pieces, all right? And then for the head, I cut 5 of these off camera for you to see. Here we go. Lost my train of thought for a minute. 5 of those. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut out what I need for the hat. Again, 2 pieces for the brim and then 1 each of the other 2 pieces. And I'm pretty much, here comes Bella, I'm pretty much really trying to stick to what this snowman is made out of and everything. I do change up the colors on the scarf, of course, but I'm trying to keep it right to it what it is. All right, so here's my pieces, 1 of the other, 2 of this. All right, so let's take to work on the snowman. So what you're going to do, you can glue, I wanted to show you here, if you wanted to use just a real soft fleece, that would work wonderful too, instead of the Sherpa material, okay? You can glue the Sherpa fine with like this Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. It works perfectly wonderful because I did a lot of gluing for the hat and gluing, you know, the pieces of the snowman together and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is start with 2 long pieces. You're going to leave about 1 inch at the top. You're going to start down one side. You're going to leave about 1 inch at the top, and you're going to glue from about 1 inch down all the way along one side to the very tip of the other, okay? Just like that. So again, from the top, about 1 inch down, glue or sew along that edge. And for the top, it doesn't matter. We're going to be leaving our end open, and especially on the head, it doesn't matter if both ends are open a little bit because that's going to get covered. But the bottom of the snowman, try and get to the very edge and make sure your edges are sealed because there's nothing going to be covering that up, okay? So here I am just sewing along one edge. I probably got about 1/2 inch or maybe 1/4 inch seam allowance here. Just show you a little bit of sewing along the way. It's all pretty much the same thing. All right, so here's what this looks like. I can see I've got 1 inch open here, and this is what it looks like from the pretty side. So we're going to, and it's going to sit up really tall. That's why I made a really long shape. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing coming along, and then we're going to attach the next piece. We're going to do the same procedure like we just did, about 1 inch down. Glue or sew along that edge, and then once you get that, making sure that edge is good, you're going to flip it over, right sides together, pretty sides together, and you're going to do the same thing until you've done all 7 pieces, okay? I'll do those all off camera. So here I am with all 7 pieces here, and so the last thing you want to do, obviously, is just take those 2 open edges. You can see where I've got my areas open there, and these are sewed all the way to the end, and just go ahead and put those 2 pieces together. So when you're done, you have this really tall, long kind of ball shape, all right? So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and sew it closed. And I will show you an option if you don't want to do it this way. If you want to do it the easy way, I will show you that quick option here coming up soon. Once you're done, go ahead and turn your gigantic snowman body so it's right side out. The pretty side is out. All right, looks like this. The bottom's all good and together. Perfect. Now we're going to move to the head, and we're basically going to do the same thing. 5 pieces. All right, and we're going to do the same procedure. 2 together. You're going to leave a little opening at the top, about 1 inch down, and glue or sew down one end down to the bottom. Now, like I said before on the head, it doesn't matter if you don't get the head completely closed there, because one end glues on the body and the other end is going to be covered by the hat. So if you have a little opening at the bottom of the head, that is perfectly fine. It will get hidden. But the snowman body, we want it closed. Now, if you need to on the snowman body, while it is inside out, if you find it still open a little bit, you can take a couple stitches at the bottom to make sure that gets closed before you turn it right side out. So here, my head is all sewn just like we did the body, and we're turning it right side out here. Okay, and then, of course, what we'll start doing is stuffing it here in just a minute. But before we get to that, if you don't want to do it like I'm doing it and you just want to cut 2 big circles and do like we did all our fall pumpkins, bottom circle, I would probably go about 22 to 24 inches in diameter, and then probably about 12 inches for the top circle. And then you're just going to take needle and thread, and you're going to do a running stitch all the way around each edge. Now, if you don't understand this, or you're a gluer and you don't understand running stitch, I'll have a link down in my description box. It takes you to my blog, and it shows you some stitches on a video, okay? So you do the running stitch all the way out, okay? So you've got like a nice little ball shape there, and then you'll stuff it. And I'm just going to do a little bit of stuffing here. You probably want to stuff it nice and tight, and then pull your thing closed so you have like this ball shape. Okay, now, if you do it this route, it's not going to be as tall as the snowman that we are doing because of how I made my pattern. You're going to have kind of a cute, shorter, fatter, plumpier pumpkin than a fatter, tall pumpkin. But either way works, okay? So I'll just do a little bit more stuffing here, and then I'll get the rest done off camera. And in this next frame, miraculously, both of my pieces are stuffed, and stuff it as tight as you want it. And I've kind of flattened the body down a little bit so that our head can sit nice and flat on top. This is what that'll look like, okay? And yeah, I know my head is quite a bit smaller than my body because that's the way I wanted it. So for the hat, all right, we're going to take the brim piece. It's 2 pieces. You're going to put right side together. You're either going to glue around the edge, leaving a little opening, couple fingers opening to turn your fabric right side out, or you're going to sew the 2 pieces together, of course. Same concept, sew around the edge. I'm about 1/4 inch here for the seam allowance, and then just leave, 1 inch or 2, just enough opening to turn the fabric pretty side out. And I know it's going to be a little hard to see on camera with black fabric. We'll do the best we can. Once you got it glued or sewn, go ahead and turn it pretty side out. Right? Now, I'm going to add a little stuffing in mine. You don't have to. In the end, and I mean, I just barely added any, but in the end, I almost wish I didn't, so it would lay a little flatter and not so plump, so you can choose, but it's still cute. All right, once I get as much stuffing in it, I'm going to set it aside. I'll glue it later. Now we're going to move to the hat part. This is bigger than it needs to be. It's probably about 2 inches bigger than it needs to be, but when I give you a free pattern, I'd rather you have more than not enough. So if you're a sewer, you're going to actually probably put both pieces, fold your piece together, right sides together, and you're probably going to come in about 1 inch, and you're going to sew that down. All right? If you're a gluer, you're going to fold it over and like overlap it and to put your top on, okay? You're going to fold it over and overlap it and then glue your top on, whereas us as sewers, we're going to put the 2 edges together and sew down it. So here's mine sewn, and now I'm going to add the top and just sew around the edge right along that seam, right at the very tip top. I probably go in about 1/8 of an inch, and I'm going to sew it all the way down around. I like to sew from the outside. You can sew however you want. Gluers, you're sitting here waiting because you've folded your rectangle piece together, fold it over enough. You're going to have to fold it over enough first to make sure you have just the right size circle at the top to fit that little small circle when you glue it down. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't want any gaps, so make sure you fold it over enough that it's the perfect size opening to glue down your little piece. Once it's all done, before we turn it out, I'm going to do just about 1 inch apart some little slits, and then I'm going to turn it right side out and add some stuffing inside. Okay, fluff it out a little bit, and we're doing slits so that we can fold those inward and just kind of glue them down to the stuffing. All right, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just add some glue right around those areas where I made a slit, and those slits are probably about an inch, well, maybe 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch in, and then I'm just gluing it down, like I said, to the stuffing. It doesn't have to be closed. We're going to hide that, holding it so the glue sets up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue that opening closed on my hat. And now I'm going to add a bunch of glue on the raw, ugly end here of our top portion, and we're going to glue it down to the center of our brim. Okay? And then I'm going to smush it down flat here and hold it for a couple of minutes. Now for the fabric, I'm going to use 2 kinds of fleece here. You can use 1 if you want. I'm going to use 2 because I want to make it double-sided. Okay, so I've got my 2 fabrics cut. If you want to do like a double layer or reverse scarf, so to speak, it's 4 inches wide, 36 inches long. I'm laying right sides together. All right, and what we're going to do is we want to leave both ends open because I want to cut like the little slits in the scarf, you know, on both ends just to make it cute, and we'll tie those together. But if you're a gluer or sewer, you're going to glue down each long side of your fabric, leaving about 2 inches at each end with no glue, okay, or no sewing. So gluing all the way down, leaving about 2 inches open at each end, okay? So here I am going all the way down with the sewing machine. And then here in just a minute, you'll see me stop about 2 inches before the edge. So gluers or sewers, you're going to stop 2 inches before each edge. And now I'm coming down the other side. And I'll show you what it looks like, of course, when it's done, so you can see you've got a 2-inch gap that there's no sewing or gluing on each end. Okay, coming down to finish this one. Okay, and then once you get it glued or sewn, go ahead and turn it right side out, okay? It's going to take a little bit trying to get this long tube out, and then I will freeze frame it here in just a minute so you can kind of see the ends, how they're open where we didn't glue or sew. See that end, how I froze it? You got that 2-inch section on both sides. There's one, and then here's the other one as I'm pulling it out. See, it's open right there. And we do that on purpose because now we're going to come in, we're going to kind of flatten out that end, and I just do like little 1/2 inch little slits, probably about 2 inches long. I cut 6 of them. You can cut as many slits as you want. In fact, this one gets a little thin, but that's okay. But you can see how I've got cute little slits. You can leave them like that if you want. You don't have to do anything else with them. Okay, but I left it open here so that we could tie them in little knots. You take 1 strip on each side, 1 strip of each side of the fabric, and then you just tie it into a little knot. Okay, 1/2 knot, and then tie it again, stretch it out because fleece stretches nicely, and then Bella's trying to eat me. And then tie another little knot, and so you do that all the way down. You take 1 little strip from each side of the fabric, tie a 1/2 knot, and then come in, stretch it out a little bit, and tie another knot. And that just kind of brings your ends together and then gives it a little bit more personality. But again, you don't have to do that. You can just leave them hanging free if you want. Okay, and again, you don't have to do like we're doing here. If you want to just cut one fleece design, one design of fabric, 4 inches wide, 36 inches long, and just cut little slits in it, you're done. You don't have to do this whole thing that we're doing here, okay? When we're done tying our cute little knots, this is what it looks like. If you chose to go this route, make it double-sided. Now I'm going to switch gears and make some eyes, nose, mouth. And I got these little pom-poms. Now you could, and I got them from Joann's, you could just use pom-poms if you want. But in the picture, it looks like they used Sherpa material for the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So what I did is I cut little fibers off scrap pieces of the black Sherpa, and I just glued it to the pom-pom to make it look like a Sherpa eye and a nose mouth. So here's what it looks like, kind of Sherpa-y with the little fabrics hanging off. That's what it's going to look like, because again, that's what it kind of looked like in the photo to me. Or you could just use pom-poms, or you could use buttons or beads, whatever you want to use normally, right? But I just thought it'd be fun. So I take my black and I hold it where the ugly side is down, and I take my scissors across the top and just, give it a little haircut. And I get all these little fibers, and I only glue the top half of the little pom-pom. I add glue to the top half of the pom-pom and then squish the fibers onto the pom-pom. And I actually think it turns out cute. And I'm okay that it doesn't have like a carrot nose, which is funny for me because you'd think I'd want a carrot nose, but I'm kind of following the picture. And then, of course, I'm using the little white pom-poms because they're tinier, and so they'll be better for the eyes and for the little mouth. Okay, so I make 1 for the nose, 2 for the eyes, 5 for the mouth, and 2 bigger ones that's the size of the nose for a couple of buttons. Okay, so all my eyes, nose, mouth, buttons, whatever's done, and we're going to go ahead and start gluing our hat to the top of the head, and I'm going to glue it just a little bit off kilter, just because I think it gives it a fun little bit of personality. I'm using a lot of glue here. Now, I think this will be fine with just the glue, but I do go in and just add some stitches by hand with a needle and thread just to make sure. Isn't she cute? Little break as I hold the hat on the head to let the glue set up. Pet the little Bella, stretch her out. All right, she's cute. Anyway, so that's down there nice and good, and then I'm going to do needle and thread here, use some black thread, and I just like not very many stitches at all. I go pretty far apart, probably an inch apart, and just do some really quick, easy stitches around the head, mostly too because I'm not concerned that the glue is going to come off or anything like that or not hold, but I want the brim, the outer edge of the brim of the hat to be a little bit more sunk down into the head. Okay, because I put glue mostly toward the center because I didn't want any of the glue to come out around the edge of the hat, and you see that. So I want to stitch down around the outer edge of the hat, so like I said, that comes down a little bit more onto the head. Okay, this is just optional. You don't have to. Couple little knots here to finish it off and cut off the excess. Perfect. This is what we've got. And now we're going to get our snowman put together. We're going to glue the head to the body. You can see I'm using ample glue here. So whether you're doing it this way or the alternative way of making the snowman, it's time to get that head on. We want to make our snowman whole now. I do go in off camera and add some stitches with some white thread around the edges just because, that was my preference. But also make sure if you do it this way with the pattern that you match up your lines there, okay? Match up the seams of your head to the seams of your body to make it look nice. Once that's all done, we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to tie my scarf on. I don't want to glue it because I thought, what if I want to change him out and I make a Christmas scarf so I can use him for Christmas, and then when Christmas is over, I can rip the other scarf off and I can put this winter scarf on. So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a safety pin here to kind of hold the little knot closed because I don't really knot it. I just kind of fold it over. So using a safety pin to just kind of make it like this, and I'm putting my scarf a little bit off to the side. But again, you could glue your scarf on, but I didn't want to in case I wanted to use them at Christmas time as well. It gives me an option. Now I'm coming in and I'm gluing my little Sherpa pieces on. I've got my nose on first, and I put my scarf on first so that it would give me how much dimension I had left of the head to place my eyes, nose, and mouth, of course. And I'm kind of just making sure I pull the Sherpa apart as I put on each of the little pieces so that I can kind of really tuck them into the Sherpa. But I think it looks pretty darn close to the original. I'm glad how it came out. And again, I'm okay that it's not a carrot nose, but I kept thinking, do I want it a carrot nose? But I left it this way because it's fun. So we get our face put on, squish them in there, and then we're doing our 2 buttons here. Now you could choose 3 buttons, but I chose 2 buttons. Again, we're duping this right, even though sometimes I lindify it. I guess I did with the scarf, right? I lindify it because I made it a reversible scarf. Once I get this last button on, that makes this project complete. So let's take a look at our cost comparison. Our final cost came in at $9 versus $54.99. I think we did a great job. Another Pottery Barn dupe? Yep, project number 7. This project came in, again, I did not save the cost, but I found it on another site, and I know it was upward around this price at Pottery Barn, and it came in at, this picture's running slow, there it is, $49.64, and I'm going to use the white Sherpa for this project. That's all we need, unless you want to add like a little bow or something on top. The hard part about this is the pattern, and I've got you covered. So this pattern comes in 5 sheets, okay, when you print it out, but you can see there's not much to print out, not going to take much ink, and I've got it numbered for you. So this is number 1 of 5. It's the upper left pattern, okay? So let's put this together. This is number 2 of 5. It's the upper right pattern, and this pattern will be 25 inches big. All right, so it's a big snowflake. Then we've got, this is number 3 of 5. It's the lower left of the pattern. I'm just going to lay it down here to the lower left for a moment. This is number 4 of 5. It's the lower center of the pattern. And then, of course, we have number 5 of 5. That's the lower right of the pattern. Now, it's probably going to be easier to put this together by putting the center bottom in first. So you line up these 2 pieces with those top edges up here, and as you tape it together, it just goes edge to edge, all right? If you go to print it out and you have a little edge, a little edge on the paper or something, you can cut that off, but basically, to make the lines all match up, but it should just go edge to edge like this. And then what you're going to do is tape it all together, cut it out. There's 2 options. You can place this on a fold on your fabric, okay, and then you're going to end up having to cut 2 out of your Sherpa fabric because you need a front and a back. Or you can take this pattern, cut it out, put it like on a poster board, trace one side, right, and then flip it over and trace the other side, and then cut out a great big 1-piece pattern that you don't have to put on the fold of your fabric or anything like that. And I'll show you what that looks like here in just a minute, because I taped it all together to make the pattern, but in order so you don't have 20 pages to print out, I did half. But see how it's kind of like taped down the center? So if you did it on poster board, traced 1/2, flipped it over, traced the other half, and then put the 2 halves together, make one big pattern. So that's your 2 options for this, okay? Now, of course, you can glue or sew this together. So I've got mine all pinned right sides together, pretty sides together. You want to leave one end up here where you don't sew or glue it together. We got to stuff this, right? So if you're a gluer, you're going to glue all the way around the edges, right close near the edge between the fabrics, right between it like that, all the way around, leaving one little bubble of your, it looks like a bubble, open of your fabric, okay? If you're a sewer, of course, you're going to sew all the way around, leaving one little area open for stuffing, flipping and stuffing. So I'm just going to show a tiny bit here. I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance for those of you who are sewers. I am sewing with a size 14 needle. So here everything's all sewn. I've got my opening. So now it's time to flip our gigantic snowflake pillow. And yes, about 25 inches. When you print out that pattern, these patterns are made on 8.5 by 11 paper. So, make sure you're printing out as big as possible, on your 8 by 11 paper. It fills up those sheets, if that's understandable. You don't want to make it any smaller now. You want them to print out 8.5 by 11. It takes a little bit of, flipping, but so I cut a lot of that off, but, flip, pull your stuff out. I use, again, my paintbrush, the handle, to kind of come in and in those, let's call them scalloped areas, come in and just move my paintbrush right along the entire scallop of each end of the snowflake to really poof them out and get their shape. And then, of course, once it's all ready, we're going to stuff our snowflake. All right, this thing is coming together so easy and so quick. I love it. Now, I stuffed mine like really fat and tight, that you could set this snowflake on its end and it'll stand upright. But you stuff it, as I always say, you do you and stuff it how you want. Now, when you get to the last little bit, might I suggest this option? You could stuff the whole thing and then, of course, glue your opening or sew your opening closed. But I think it's going to be hard to manipulate and hold all the stuffing, because it's going to keep falling out as you're trying to turn your raw edges in toward your stuffing and glue or sew it closed. So might I suggest that you, before you stuff that last little scallop, glue or sew like half of that scallop closed, okay? And then once you get that part done, you can come in and stuff it through the smaller opening as nice and tight as you want, and then finish closing the rest of that opening, because it's just going to be hard to try and hold all that stuffing in as you're trying to do the whole scallop. So I've got half of it sewn, get the rest of my stuffing into that scallop area nice and tight, and then I of course will finish that side. I do it off camera, you don't have to watch me do it. Now once we get all this done, you can see how tight my stuffing is. I have the center all nice and poofy. If you want, you could take some fleece and make a cute little bow here, or leave it plain like I did. I think either way would look cute. That makes this project complete, and let's look at our final cost of $6 versus $49.64. Let's move into project number 8. For this project, I'm on my iPad here. I wanted to show you, I wanted to dupe this snowflake. And what we're going to do is I'm going to use some of this. You can find these at Dollar Tree. This is just an extra one where you can get an 8-foot at like a hardware store. Whether you go the 8-foot and cut it into lengths or get the ones at Dollar Tree, it runs both about the same cost, $8 or $9. And I'm going to cut this down to a 16-inch piece for the general length, and then I'm going to use all these ones from Dollar Tree to give us our other lengths. You could also use these flat ones from Dollar Tree, or again flatter ones, or again pick up the 8-foot ones at like Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that. I'm going with the thicker wood because I just want it a little bit thicker. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of use my iPad here and scribble with my fingers. So this is going to be 16 inches. And that's the main one. Then we've got 4 of these ones, okay? And what you're going to do is just whatever your main one is, you're going to divide that in half. So each of these 4 other pieces are going to be 8 inches long. Now I'm going to cut out these little ones. I'm not going to do those. You could if you wanted. I'm just going to do these first longer ones. And those are anywhere from 2.5 to 3 inches. I believe I did them between like actually 2.25 inches. All right. And the angle cut that we're going to make on those is 30 degrees, okay? And then we've got an angle cut on these 4 main pieces, and those are going to be at 40 degrees, all right? So again, let's review. We need 1 long board at 16 inches, 4 shorter boards at 8 inches, 12 shorter boards still. I went 2.25, but or 2.5. And then we need a 30-degree cut on the 12 boards and a 40-degree cut on the 4 boards. Okay. It was a blustery, rainy, sideways wind night. I didn't realize that I'm stepping mostly in front of the camera because I was trying to keep my camera and ring light out of the rain. It was horrible. I was freezing. My toes were ice, but I'm out there doing it for you. So I got a little bit. You can see the rain on my jacket, my hands, a little bit of cutting for you. Now the 30 degree, it didn't quite work right. So I had to go the backwards. So on the 30 degree, I actually set it on 70. And then on the 40 degree cuts, I actually set it on 60. So I don't know why it was backwards, if it was direction I was cutting, but look at all the rain. It is like cold. But anyway, so here is one 30-degree cut, or as I said, at 70 degrees. And then of course I do another quick cut. Now you could angle both sides. I saw some snowflakes that were angled both sides for stuff, but actually what I did is just angle one side and keep one side straight. So here are all my pieces all cut. I've already got them sanded and kind of ready to go. I've got my 1 long piece and my 4 other short center pieces. Now, when I first originally cut this, directions I found, get lots with snowflakes, was 30 degrees. But when I did 30 degrees, I'm going to kind of pull it out this way, it kind of made it like they were inward more like that, and I didn't like it. So that's why I changed my cut to 40 degrees so that those would splay out farther apart. Okay, so that's why these are 40 and the others are 30. Now you could use wood glue to put this together, but when you're going to have to do it in stages. When you put these 4 pieces on with the wood glue, you're going to have 2 pieces on either end of those, and then use your clamps to clamp all those together. You need some kind of brace on both sides if you're going to do it this way. I've got 2 options for you, okay? Because with wood glue, you have to have the pressure to clamp it together. Then with these shorter pieces, they are small enough that I would suggest not doing wood glue on them. I would suggest going in with like E6000 or a Gorilla Glue, because this glue holds very wonderful and it doesn't need a clamp of a pressure to get on there, okay? Because it was very hard to try and clamp it. My husband and I were trying different ways to do it. So that said, this is the other option I went with. So I'm going to get all of my little pieces in place here. And what I want to do is a little bit easier route, and I'm going to use these 1/4 inch dowel pins. They're about 1 inch long, 1/4 inch around. They're fluted, and then I can just use wood glue and then not have to clamp anything. And what I want to do is make it so these 4 center pieces have 2 of these fluted pieces across using wood glue. And then here I want to do the same thing. I want them to go into the main piece of wood and then come out into the surrounding wood around it. Does that make sense? So what I'm doing here first is my main piece is 16 inches. I'm going to mark the center at 8 inches. And then I'm going to take the point of my 4 other pieces and I'm going to put them right at the center there at 8 inches. So that little corner is right at the center. Okay, and in these pieces, this is how I'm kind of measuring to put everything together. I'm coming down about, I think, 1.25 inches. So let me double check this here with the ruler. Yeah, I'm about 1.25 inches down from the edge is where I'm placing the other little pieces coming down. So I'm going to mark that on both sides so I know where to place those pieces when I go to put the little fluted dowels in, little fluted pin. Now to drill the holes, you could drill them by hand, but I'm going to use a combination of like a drill press and a hand drill to drill the holes, because we need holes where the 4 main pieces contact the 1 long piece, and where our little pieces, see where those lines are coming across, contacts those 4 little pieces. Okay? Is that understandable? Basically, we have to drill through the main wood to attach the 4 medium-sized pieces, and we have to drill through the medium-sized pieces to attach the 2 little pieces on either end, okay? And so I'm just using this drill press going all the way down. It was nice and easy to do. My husband showed me how to do it. It was quite fun. And it was a lot quicker than, trying to drill by hand. But if, you need to, that's perfectly wonderful, because you'll mark all your lines where you need to drill, okay? So here's one done here. This one, see, I've got a hole all the way through. Wanted you to see that, and when I flip this wood over, you'll see the line all the way there where that little F is. See my line all the way across? So that's where I drilled all the way through. And now what I want to do, because what we're going to do is use the hand drill. Now, we drilled all the way through because the hand drill is going to go through that hole, and that hole is going to kind of be our guide to drill into our other piece. So we're coming 1.25 inches down, running our drill through that long hole guide into our little short piece, right? And then that gives us the other hole that we need. Nice and easy, just like that. And then what we'll do is put a pin in there and a pin in there. We'll wood glue it, and it goes together like that. So hopefully it's understandable. It's probably better to watch than me to explain it. Again, we're lining up where we drew our line straight across. We're running our drill through that main hole to give us our guide, and then drilling into the shorter piece. So everything goes together nice. I've got a piece of tape on here so I know where to stop. That probably goes in about 1/2 inch into the shorter piece. Pull it back out. All right, see, there's the hole, and then we've got the other hole and a little bit of dust on Bella's tail. Put the dowel in here just to show you we haven't glued it yet. Husband taking the tail out, putting those in, and that's what it's going to look like. Taking the tail out, taking the sawdust off her tail. All right, so here comes the wood glue. I'm going to use it with paintbrush because it's just going to be a little bit easier for me. I'm going to put a little bit across the smaller piece, and then I'm going to do a little bit across the side of the larger piece. And then I'm going to add the dowel pin, glue on that, and press it into the hole of the smaller piece. And I'm going to tap it on the table. Sometimes, there we go, boom, tap it on the table, so make sure it gets in good. I'm going to add more glue to the other end of the dowel piece, and then I'm going to just smoosh it into the bigger piece. Just like that, all the way around. So I'll do a few here, and then I'll just kind of skip forward to getting the larger pieces in. I do all the smaller pieces first, and I have them all marked. You can see like the top is A, these pieces are B, C, D, E, F, all the way around, so I knew which pieces went with which piece of wood, so to speak, right? More glue on that, putting it together. All right, so now we're down to the bigger piece. That's done. Everything's on there. We're going to attach these pieces. Of course, I'll just do a couple again. We're going to attach them the exact same way. I've got glue on this one already and glue on the pin. Tapping it in to make sure I get that into place securely. Adding a little glue on this side. And then, of course, more glue on this pin here. And pushing it into the main piece. Just like that. And I'll get out the excess glue there too. There we go. Those Cricut tools come in great. Cricut tool, vinyl tools. All right. Yeah, my language is in fine form today. Adding our glue again, going on to the last piece here just to skip ahead for you. I think we kind of have the concept down now, but I wanted to show a little bit of putting it together, and hopefully I wasn't too, like, it was understandable. Hopefully I wasn't all over the place explaining it to you. Get this one in there. It's nice and tight. Perfect. Now, once all that's set up, I let it set up for a good hour or so. I took some white swan chalk paint and I mixed it with a lot of water to make it just like really runny, because I didn't want to cover up all those great, you know, nuances in the wood. I wanted it to just kind of look like a whitewash. So I'm just going to go over this, show you a little bit, and then, you know, paint it and wipe off the excess. I actually do 2 coats. All around, front, back, around all the edges. A little bit more painting here. And plus it was faster to paint. I like that option. Once it is dry, then I want to go in and just add a little bit of distressing to it. I wanted this to look a little bit of farmhouse, right? And so I just come in with some 120 grit sandpaper and I just sand it by hand. Again, front, back, etc. And once I do that, this project is complete. Here we go with project number 9. For this project, I want to create a pillow. I think we've all probably seen it on Pinterest, but I'm going to just make it a little bit different. I'm starting out with this corduroy fabric I picked up at Hobby Lobby, I believe, and it is 13 inches tall and 21 inches long. And then this fabric that I got at Jubilee Fabrics, I wanted this to kind of be neutral tones. I cut 4 of one color, 3 of another, and they're 2.5 by 8 inches. And then out of just some felt, some white felt, I cut just kind of a snowman shape, a really long one. It comes in at about 16 3/4 inches long. At the wide width is about 4.5, and then at the smaller end is about 1 3/4. I've got a couple of sticks, a couple of snowflakes, because at this point I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. And then I've got 7 buttons here. Got a little nose I just freehanded out of some orange fabric. All right, just tiny little nose you can see there, and then a couple of little beads for eyes. And then I've got this strip that's about 1 inch by about probably 16, 17 inches. You can use Beacon Fabri-Tac glue here, of course. If you are a gluer, go ahead and glue down the entire button if you want to do buttons. I am just kind of spot gluing them down, okay, into place. And then what I want to do is add some twine through the center. And so I'm going to spot glue them down and sew in some twine through the center. Now, if you're a gluer, you can come in and take twine, put it through the center of your buttons, and then glue your button down. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of spot gluing my snowman together. I cut it into 2 pieces. I wanted 2 pieces for my snowman to make it look a little thicker. You can just cut 1 piece. All right, if you decide to cut 2 pieces, if you're a gluer, go ahead and just glue the whole thing together really well. And now I'm gluing my scarf on the back just a little bit. okay, just to hold it in place. And then if you could use beads for eyes, you can go ahead and glue those on if you're a gluer. I'm going to use a needle and thread and just kind of sew the beads on there. So I come from the back to the front, add the bead, and then I come from right kind of where I came out, add the thread back from the front to the back side. Then I'm going to come back to the front, add another bead, go right close to where I came out, and go from the front to the back, and then tie it off. You could just make some little marks with a Sharpie marker to make your eyeballs. You can use tiny buttons if you want, whatever you want to do here. Okay, so here I am. This is where I'm going ahead and hand sewing. It's really thin twine through the buttonholes, and I'm just leaving it one unit. I'm just coming down to the next button. I'm not cutting off the twine in between buttons. And again, if you're a gluer and you want to fill the holes, you can add the twine or thread, whatever you want to use, embroidery thread or anything like that. You know, put it through the buttons first and then glue the buttons on. Or if you don't want to put anything through the buttons, leave the buttons naked, that's okay. So you can see how I just went down to each button without cutting my twine. And then once I get to the last button, I'm just going to kind of make a little knot on the back side and then cut off the excess. All right, so here what I'm going to do is layer. I'm going to alternate my little pieces here. And I'm about 2.5 inches from each edge once I layer. They do overlap slightly, probably about 1/4 of an inch. You don't have to have them overlap. You don't have to have alternating pieces. You could just have one piece, however you want to do it. I want them to overlap just a little bit. If you're a gluer, go ahead and glue all your pieces down onto your main fabric there on one piece of your pillow, of course. Now I'm taking that one piece with my fabric pieces and I'm first sewing around the entire perimeter of all those pieces. So I'm sewing a big rectangle all the way around. Then I'm going to come over where I overlap the pieces and I'm just going to sew across each piece just where I overlapped it once. Sewing across to keep them in place because I wanted this to kind of look a little country too, so I wanted to add some sewing to it, you know, and have it fun. And as you can see, I'm leaving all those cut edges out and everything. I'm leaving them frayed, letting the little threads pop out because that's the way I want it to look, okay? So here I am just coming across where they overlap. I sewed around the entire thing. Now I'm coming across where they overlap and sewing across there. This is what it looks like. And then you can see all my little threads and stuff hanging out. And off camera, I also just sewed that nose on a little bit. You don't have to. You can certainly just glue it on whether you're a sewer or a gluer. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this snowflake. And I've got some little sticks here. I'm going to see where I want my snowman to be with the sticks and where the snowflake's going to be. Once I know where my arms are going to be, I'm going to go ahead and just use my Fabri-Tac glue and glue those down. Right? And then I'm going to go ahead and glue down my snowman really well right over those sticks. All right? Now, I could leave him just glued, of course, but you know, once I've got my gluing done, I'm going to go around and sew around the perimeter. Okay? You could do a little hand stitching around the outside. Like that would look really awesome, but I'm going to take it quick and easy and just sew around the snowman. And the sticks they were like a bunch of sticks you could get at like Hobby Lobby in the floral section. I got them years ago, and they are just really soft and really small that I just sew right through them, believe it or not. I have a size 14 needle in my machine. I'm going to prove it to you right here. I just sew directly over the stick. I make sure my scarf is out of the way. I just go real slow though. When I get up to it, I just go really slow, kind of by hand, turning the knob to go right through and over that stick, and then I continue sewing around. Just like that, both sides. I'll show you once again and prove it to you, coming around, moving my scarf out of the way, and I'm going to come just right through nice and quick using my turn knob to go slow over that stick, and then continue sewing. It was nice and easy. I wouldn't recommend it if it was a stick from outside because it's probably too dense. You might just want to glue those on. So here's what that looks like. And then I'm going to come in and just tie my scarf the way I want it to tie, just a nice little knot. And then I'm going to glue my scarf down really well underneath the knot as well. Make sure that's down. in between in the center of that knot, so that's nice and stable. And then I'm just going to wrinkle and crinkle the little tails of the scarf right where I want them to be so they look all nice and cute and country. Again, the fabric is just, I ripped that 1-inch piece of fabric so that it was nice and frayed, kind of whitewashing this snowflake. I'm going to set that aside to dry. Now, if you're a gluer, we're going to assemble our pillow. I'm leaving out the raw edges of our pillow. Everything else is frayed. I'm going to leave this out as well. So if you're a gluer, you're just going to come up, 3 and 3/4 sides between the two fabrics right along the edge. And I say 3 3/4 because you're going to stop and leave at least a hand width opening there to stuff it with, okay? I'm going to use my sewing machine, of course, and I'm going to go all the way around, down one long side, up across the top, which is a short side, down another long side, and then about 3/4 along the bottom short side. So again, that's 3 3/4 all the way around. You are either gluing or sewing your pillow. All right, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to stuff my pillow. Here it is all the way done here. A little bit opening for stuffing. I will stuff it off camera, but you stuff it as much as you want to stuff your pillow. I like them pretty full. All right? So, and then once you're done, you're either going to glue or sew that opening closed. All right? Now, I wanted to show you one other thing here. Here it is. Before I get to that thought, I've got my thing stuffed and I've sewed it closed. I want to talk about the sticks. If you don't want sticks because you're afraid it'll break or something like that, another option is you could use some really thick twine for some little arms, or you could use some crochet thread and you can do little sewing stitches to make little arms, something like that, if you don't really want to use sticks because you're afraid they'll break or something, like I said. Now, last little thing I'm going to do here is add lots of glue onto the back of my wood snowflake, and I'm going to add a little piece of twine here because I want it to seem like it's hanging from his arm. I'm going to add glue along the back of that twine, and I'm going to attach just a tiny bit right on top of that stick there. And then I've got another little bow, of course, I made out of that same twine. And I'm going to glue that over that top edge so it covers that raw edge up there. And then just kind of glue the tails down. And then that makes this project complete. Are you still with me? Here's project number 10. For this project, I'm going to use this oval wood piece from Dollar Tree. I'm going to be bringing in these pom-pom makers, and of course I'll show you how to use it in case someone out there doesn't know. I'm going to be bringing in these pot and pan protectors. I'm also going to bring in some yarn from Dollar Tree and one of these, wood mittens from the Christmas collection, and some scrapbook paper. Now, this is a free printable I have made for you. Of course, link will be in my description box. We'll be using on this project, and I'm simply going to print it out onto some scrapbook paper for this particular one. So pulling out the medium size of the pom-pom maker, what you can do is got these couple little handles on both sides. Just go ahead and open those up so it looks kind of like this. It's really easy to do. And you're going to take some yarn right through that center dip there, and you're going to wrap it around several times, going from side to side underneath those kind of little handle areas until that center portion is kind of filled all the way across, and then cut off your yarn and kind of tuck it into position. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Wrap, filling up that center portion. Cut off your excess yarn, and then you just fold it into position. And then you're going to cut off an extra piece of yarn. So now this pom-pom maker, see between the two little handles, there's like a slit there. You're going to cut in between this slit all the way across to the other side where it's kind of slit. Okay, so it looks like that. You can do the same thing on the other side, making sure you hold it together. You don't want those handles to come out of position. You're going to have a big mess. Okay, and you're going to take your yarn in between the slits of both areas here, between the sections where you cut, and you're going to pull it, pop it, almost pops through, pull it really tight, and it'll pop through the center portion there. You can see how it's kind of in those slits there, and then just really tight, kind of pull it all the way down and tie a little half knot, and then come back through and finish your knot. Okay, and then you're going to open your handles here. Perfect. One side and then the other side. Pull it completely apart, just like this, and then you can attach it back together like that. Tuck everything back up, and now you have a little uneven pom-pom that you just need to trim up to your heart's content. You can make it smaller, you know, if you want as well. Now I'm going to take this wood, it's wood sticker pack you get from Christmas, and I chose this pot and pan protector because it's a really nice stiff, almost kind of, you know, felt. And so I'm going to use this little wood mitten, and I'm going to cut it out of this felt, and I will cut a piece for each side of the wood mitten. Okay? Yeah, I like this, just, and it's a real pretty gray color. It goes wintry, really nice, right? Just cutting it to fit. Like I said, front and back. Yeah, the wood stickers came at Christmas time. I think it had trees, stockings, wood mittens, snowflakes, all sorts of things you can choose from. For paint, I'm going to be using Dixie Belle chalk paint in Hurricane Gray and this Debbie's Design Diary DIY chalk paint in the color White Swan. And I'm going to paint the little mitten front and back with the Hurricane Gray and around the sides as well. I want it to just, you know, pretty much not be there. It's just going to kind of be our base to put that, you know, quote unquote felt on front and back. And then of course I have taken the oval circle here and I had my husband cut it in half. So now you see I have a half of an oval circle, and I'm painting around the edges of that and the sides. Don't need to paint the centers because we'll go ahead and cover that up. So yeah, your full oval circle, you want to cut half of it off, right? And then here is my scrapbook paper where I've printed out the Baby It's Cold Outside. I love that free design printable. I thought it turned out super cute. And I've already cut a piece of cardstock to cover the back of our little hat, and I'm using that to trace around our quote on the front. And then I'll go ahead and cut that out. Now both of these papers I'm cutting about 1/4 inch shorter all the way around so that our wood, you know, that we have will show around the edges. That's the way I always do it. I like my papers to be a little bit shorter so that the wood peeks out around the sides. Okay, now I'm taking both of my papers here to the sewing machine and just sewing on it like it's a regular fabric. A lot of you have heard this spiel a dozen times, but we always get new subscribers. I love to put this look on it. I think it looks farmhouse and cute. Here's what it looks like. And my stitching's not straight or anything. I'm okay with that. I'll work on finishing the other part of the front of the hat, of course, and I'm using a size 10 or 11 needle with all polyester thread. That's what my machine likes, and just the longest stitch length with is a 4, and then you can see off camera I already went ahead and sewed just one part of the mitten. I didn't worry about the back side. Now I'm taking the open end of my scissor blades and I'm just scraping along the edges of our papers here just to give it a little bit of a rustic character to it. This is a real fun, easy thing. Even if you don't sew, just doing this to it will add a lot of character to your papers, of course. Now I'm taking that DIY White Swan chalk paint. I've watered it down. I'm tapping off my paintbrush here to get the excess off, and then I'm tapping my paintbrush over my papers to add splatters to the front and back of our papers for the hat. And then I've just got some 80 grit sandpaper here, and I'm just going to sand around the hat here just to add a little bit of rustic look to this as well. And then I also have this little piece of wood. I've painted almost all sides. You can see one side isn't painted. I'm going to use this to glue to the back side of the hat so that it will add a little bit of stability for our hat to stand up. Now I'm just gluing the back part of the hat, the plain card stuck on the back, and then I'm gluing the front part of the hat with the quote onto the front, and I'm gluing down my felt on the back of the mitten, and then I'm going to glue down my felt on the front of the mitten. Perfectly cute. And then I've decided to cut a little piece of fleece just for my supply here to make a little cuff. I had originally off camera was going to just add some glitter. You could probably see the glitter down below. It didn't show up enough, so I'm just using a little bit of fleece to, you know, add that little bit of a cuff. And now what I'm doing is this pom-pom's going to sit on the top of her hat, so I'm cutting out just like a little trough area so it can sit flat on the top of the hat, as you see here, just to kind of get some of that yarn out of the way. And then I'll add some of my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue in the center of that area I cut out, and then hold it onto the top of the hat till it, you know, kind of sets up a little bit. And now I'm going ahead on top of the fleece, adding a little bit of my Fabri-Tac glue and some glitter just to kind of give it a little bit of shine. And I've got 3 pieces of kind of a blue and white twine here. I 3 pieces together, tying them into a bow. I'm going to kind of put it under the hat there in a minute. But I also want to add a bead on each end of the twine here. And these beads just came from Dollar Tree. I'll get it through all 3 pieces of the twine on both sides. Adjust my bow a little bit, of course, and then I'll tie a knot at the end of each bead, kind of cut off the excess tail there that I don't want. That way our bead doesn't fall off. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my bow right up under that hat now, and my beads and everything are all ready to go. And then I'm going to glue a little corner of that mitten right in the center of that bow. Super cute. And then I'm going to come back and glue my little stable block on the back side so it'll stand up nice and firm and tall. And that makes this project complete. Let's move right on into project number 11. Project, I'm going to use these 2 wood pieces from Dollar Tree and this little kind of wood house that came out at summertime. You could use any pieces that you want for this. But I chose this wood house because I'm going to take my craft knife here and just gently, being careful, kind of get that little, you know, piece off of the roof. I want to reuse that. Okay, and then I've sanded off around the edge a little bit on that house to remove some of that paper. And then on all 3 of these, I'm coming in with that Debbie's Design Diary DIY White Swan chalk paint. And I'm going ahead and just painting around the edges, front and back, and then on the sides as well. And if you don't have, you know, like this, you could use anything for this. You could use 3 of the blocks like we're painting here right now. You could use 3 arrow, you know, whatever you want. I just kind of trying to make like it, I want it to make it look like a little, you know, 3 house set type thing. So that's what we're doing here. Get everything all painted up. And I'm also going to bring in some of these snowflakes. I'll have the link down below to craftingwithkimber.com where I get these cute snowflakes at. You could use any, like the snowflake ornaments from Dollar Tree or the little packages of snowflakes like you get here, I think 15 to a pack from Christmas time. You could use these, whatever you find. But if you want these other kind of cute designs, you know, I'll have that link down below for you. And I'm just taking a Pouncy brush and Debbie's Design Diary White Swan chalk paint, and I'm pouncing this paint on. And then what I'm going to do is heat set it in between, and then I will pounce on another coat, and that's going to give us a little bit of texture on our snowflakes. Now, what might be cute is while your paint is still wet, I didn't do it, but it could be cute while the paint is still wet. You could sprinkle some glitter on it and let it dry so it has a little bit of fun kind of glitter texture to it as well. I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier. I just thought of it now as I'm explaining it to you. So somebody out there do that because I know it's going to be cute. So now I'm kind of already started a little bit. I have traced around each of my pieces and I'm cutting them a little bit short all the way around, you know, so that our wood peeks around the edge. I'll trace it fully and then I'll cut it just a little bit short. Nice and easy. And like I said, I'm going to cover the front and the back of all 3 of these pieces here. And I'm kind of using a brown and a blue color here of cardstock. I thought it would look really cute. So you can see here I cut it short all the way around to the left there. Perfect. Now I've gone ahead off camera and I've went ahead and sewed around the edges of almost all my papers. Now what I haven't done yet is cut the front of the house out. This brown cardstock is going to be for the back because I am actually going to do a vinyl transfer, but I wanted to remind you not to cut out the front of your house yet. So if you come to use this free printable I'm giving you and you want to print it out onto your cardstock first, it'll be a little bit easier if it's all in one piece versus a cut piece for the front of your house. I gave you two things here because the top is with snowflakes in case you don't have any wood snowflakes, and the bottom is without any snowflakes in case you want to add wood snowflakes like I'm doing, okay? So since I'm cutting mine out in vinyl, now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the front of my house. But again, if you're going to print out that printable, make sure you do that first before you cut your house out, okay? Or whatever you're going to use for your house. I'm calling these houses. They're arrows, but I'm calling them houses because I kind of wanted to look like a trio of little houses. Okay, and then once this is all cut out, I'll go ahead and take this piece to the sewing machine so you can see that I sewed it. I actually started sewing it all the way around and up into the peaks and then forgot that I'm going to have that little piece that's going to like cover the peaks. So I laid it on there, marked where that was going to be, and then came back in and re-sewed down a little bit further so that that would be seen once I replace that little wood peak back on here. That way you see a little bit of sewing up there. But again, you know, if you're not a sewer, don't do that. You know, don't worry about it, of course. There, now you can see a little bit of sewing. All right, so I'm coming in with my vinyl and just, you know, transferring it to the front of the main house, the one in the center. So this is the one you would use if you want to add your own snowflakes, okay? And then I'm coming in and I'm doing a little bit of splattering. And now I'm going to come in with the open end of my scissor blades and scrape along the edges, give that little bit of a rustic look to it as well. And then we're going to go ahead and just start gluing all our pieces down. So the two smaller side houses is just going to be front and back polka dot. And then the one in the center, of course, is the back's going to be covered with the brown cardstock and then the blue in the front that matches the polka dot paper. Because it was kind of like a double-sided paper, brown polka dot on one side and blue on the other. So here comes our front piece. Perfect. And I'll go ahead and glue on our little wood piece here at the top. Gives it a little bit of, you know, definition, 3D look here. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue one big snowflake on either side of our two smaller houses. Again, I'll have the link down below for you. And then I also will have a link to these hearts that I'm using here, that I'm putting right at the top. Now, on here, I couldn't decide if I wanted or didn't want the little snowflakes. So off camera, I actually decide I want the little snowflakes. So you'll see in the final looks that I glued the little snowflakes on. Now I want to hinge these together. You don't have to. I just wanted it to be one unit. So I'm just going to show one side here, obviously. I'm just kind of adding a hinge to each side of the main house in the middle. And then off camera, I will screw in the two smaller houses to the other side of those hinges. Because really all you're seeing is my hand and wrist going in a circle. It's really hard to see. But these are my two hinges, so I had one on each side, kind of some nice large side hinges here. And then off camera, I will screw the other two screws in to get those all to hinge together. But again, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I just thought it was kind of cute that way. And keep them all level and together and one doesn't fall down, etc. So that's what it's going to look like hinged. And now I'm going to use this glitter dust to kind of add a little sparkle to our project. And that makes this project complete. You made it! Project number 12. For this project, again, another free printable. Now, what I've done on the left side is I gave you 3 different design styles you might want to use. And in the right side, I just did 3 basic little cute tags with, you know, the fonts. I will have all the fonts in my description box to all the projects listed down below in case you do have cutting machine, Cricut, or whatever and kind of want to create your own. I'm going to use this old small drawer from my stash and that wood slice from Dollar Tree. And I picked up 3 of these instant coffees from Dollar Tree as well because I want to use the jars. If you don't have that, you could use something like these cute little, craft bottles, but I'm actually going to take the coffee out of it and store it in the craft bottles. So, I can use the coffee at Christmas for craft projects. Red and white twine. I'm going to use these little mini ornaments from Walmart and some of these snowflakes, which are ones I was showing you earlier. And then some black and gray cardstock. And my gray cardstock, I have already printed out onto it the printables for this project. And then I'm also going to bring in the hot chocolate. I chose the milk chocolate one because the envelopes are red. It'll go with the cute jars, lids of my jars. Using these from Dollar Tree for the peppermint sticks. And for the chocolate, I'm going to use these stirring spoons you can get from Dollar Tree. So here are my jars all cleaned out and ready to go. And we're going to work on the wood slice here a little bit. I'm going to use this antique wax. I'm going to mix it with water, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of stain the front and back of our wood slice. So I have a small house, y'all. I have like 1,003 square foot small house. I know you guys didn't picture it, but my house is tiny. But that's okay. So I don't have this great big luxurious beautiful open pantry thing I can place this gigantic, hot chocolate bar, etc. I have a little counter space. So I wanted to use this just cute little miniature drawer and just create this little hot chocolate thing. So right now I'm just cutting some cardstock to fit the center of the wood slice a little bit short all the way around because otherwise, we don't see the wood slice. What fun is that? And then off camera, I go ahead and cut the quote that I already printed out, the design I already printed out. You can see that on the right-hand side. I cut that a little bit short all the way around, so you see a little bit of that black cardstock around the edges. And now I'm just cutting out the, little tags here to fit the little miniature ornaments that I had picked up at Walmart. They're already black. They're ready to go. It's perfect. So I'm just cutting that to see a little bit of black around the edge. And I'm going to go ahead and use the beads that are already on there. I'll take off the black and white check ribbon because I'm going to use a different colored check ribbon. But, let's use what we have, and it's a little less work, right? And it's really cute. So here you can see I've sewn around the edges of my pieces and all that. I've got that glued on, and these are already glued on as well. I've sewn around the edges of these little tags. And now I've got some wire here. And what I'm going to do, I think it's like a 20 gauge wire. I'm going to wrap 2 pieces around the end of a paintbrush. I've already got one done. I'm going to smush it together. We did this in a project not that long ago. Got 2 here, as you can see, ready to go with a little bit of a long tail on there. And I'm taking a tiny drill bit and I'm just drilling a hole on either side of the wood slice. And then I'm going to go ahead and put these through those holes and kind of bend the wire on the back side. You'll see that in a minute what it looks like. Now I'm taking some of that red and white twine, tie it kind of in a half knot first, and then add the tag into that, and then finish that half knot into a bow. Perfectly cute. See, the beads are still on there. And here's a red and black ribbon I decided I wanted to use instead because the red will match the lids on our jars. I'll go ahead and glue that in the center of that twine bow. Super, super cute. Easy, but so cute. I'll go ahead and do one more jar that way. I've got the other one already finished and ready. Just so you can see it again, kind of from this angle. Add our cute little bow in the center. So, so cute. And then I'm opening up my little peppermint sticks. I'm going to add them into my peppermint jar. Oh, just looks so cute. I'll go ahead and open up the chocolate spoons. I just love how that looks. I'm going to go ahead and open up the chocolate spoons. I'm going to layer those in the jar. I do the marshmallows off camera. That's really easy. I couldn't believe that Dollar Tree had these. So cute. And they fit perfectly. They'll fit in those little craft jars too because I checked in case you use those little craft jars. Put the lid on that. So super cute. Everything's cute. It's cute, right? It's all cute. I love how that looks. So on the back of the wood slice, you can see there now, there's the wires, how I just folded them over. And I'm using these like super glue stickums you can get in the hardware section at Dollar Tree, and I'm just using those to stick this on here because then I can pull it back off and use the drawer for something else when I'm done with the hot chocolate, right? And I'm just using some crinkly paper from Dollar Tree as well. Now there's two ways you can do this. Kind of put this in, and I'm going to put my little envelopes in the back here, kind of line them up all cute, and then you can just layer your jars right in front of that in the center, of course. But I kind of wanted my jars to set up a bit in my drawer, so I've just got these wood blocks, kind of push the paper back, wood blocks a little forward, sets my jars up a little bit, and that makes this super cute project complete. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look-see-backsy on 12 of my favorite winter DIYs. Hopefully you find one that you want to make for this year's winter home decor. Please leave me a comment down below and leave me a snowflake emoji if you made it all the way to project number 12. Please give this video a thumbs up. It helps my channel to grow. And if you walked in here for the first time, you're just checking things out, you're digging what you saw, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another video from me. Before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. When we speak of love, it's important to understand that Jesus coming as man to earth is because of God's love for us. It's not that we love God, it's because he loved us first. We know that, we believe that. It's a beautiful thing. In the Bible, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31 and verse 3, it says, I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. His love overflowing for us is our hope, which is an anchor for our soul. We are highly cherished, highly valued, and we are of significance to him. The love of God was placed in each one of us the moment he formed us. This love is the greatest of all because his love endures forever. It endures to lift us up when times are hard. It endures to provide a steadfast foundation. It endures because it is unwavering, constant, and never-ending. It endures because God is always with us. This love remains steadfast through any circumstance, demonstrating its strength even when we are faced with challenges or hardship. God's love is not contingent on our actions or situations, but it is a permanent and unconditional love. In the book of Psalms, chapter 26 and verse 3, it says, For your loving kindness is before my eyes, and I have walked faithfully in your truth. So in this new year, let your heart be loved by God. Allow your heart to feel his everlasting and unconditional love. Why? Because you are worthy to be loved. You are cherished by God. Let your ears hear this. Let your heart receive this, and let your mind believe this. You will always be important to God. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.